You are watching your award-winning cable access station, Channel 13 and 19, Athol Orange Community Television.
Welcome to Quabbin Valley Health Links, a presentation of Quabbin Valley Healthcare in partnership with AOTV. This program is designed to link members of the community to health-related resources available in and around your local community. We serve to provide information on healthcare-related matters and other resources so you can make better, more informed healthcare decisions. Please visit us at qvhc.com for more information. I just wanted to welcome everybody, first of all, to Quabbin Valley. We're going to tape this for Athol Community TV as well, so that people who couldn't be here today could get this very important information when it airs on the channel. And I will turn it over to representatives from the Office of the Attorney General's office, and I'll let them introduce themselves and the program. So thank you for coming.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having us. We're very excited to be here. It's not very often that we get to branch out beyond where our offices are, so it's nice to kind of go north from Worcester, where I work. So my name's Lauren McCarthy, and this is Amani. We both are consumer specialists in our Consumer Advocacy and Response Division. Today we'll be talking to you guys about scams and identity theft, and we really want to make this as informal as possible. So if you have any questions, just jump in, let us know, and we're happy to talk to certain situations that you have or questions that you have about what's going on. So our main office is in Boston, and our Attorney General is Maura Healey. And we have 3 regional offices. One is in Worcester, one is in New Bedford, and one is in Springfield. So each one of those regional offices is kind of a smaller version of our Boston office. We have a different number of divisions that are represented in each one of those regional offices, whether it's our Civil Rights Division, Healthcare Division, Fair Labor, insurance divisions. So there's a number of different divisions that our office has a focus on, and different things that we can do to assist consumers on an individual level and to help the Commonwealth as a whole. So a lot of people are unsure about what the Attorney General's office does, how we represent the Commonwealth. Maura Healey often likes to refer to herself as the people's lawyer, and what she means by that is we represent the Commonwealth as a whole. So we take a look at what's going on within the state of Massachusetts, and we look at the problems that consumers are having with businesses or business practices, and that's when we can take a look and say, well, there's a large number of Massachusetts consumers who are being really affected by this type of business or business practice. And that's when we can potentially investigate further into the complaints that we receive and then bring matters to court. So we don't really bring matters to court on an individual basis, but more when there's a widespread issue that's affecting the state of Massachusetts. So our division, the Consumer Advocacy and Response Division, focuses on consumer complaints. So we would handle a wide variety of complaints. Anything that you can think of that regards consumer issues probably would come to us. So whether it's purchasing a used vehicle, if you had a warranty on a vehicle, if you purchased a product from a store and they're not letting you return it, debt collection, yeah. Housing issues, landlord-tenant issues. It's pretty much endless, all the different things that we can do. So if there's ever a question of whether or not we can help you, just give us a call. We'll walk you through the situation, and if we can't help you with that issue, I'm sure we know who can. So we would be happy to give you that information. So I think if anyone doesn't have any questions about kind of the overall AGO, I'll hand it over to Amani, and she'll go ahead and start talking about identity theft.
And also, just right on your tables there's a little bit more information about the office, one of the worksheets there, and the little brochure too, just explaining a little bit more about our division. Okay, so as Lauren introduced, my name is Amani Abdul-Jabbar. I am based out of Boston, but from Worcester. As Lauren was saying, our regional offices and our main office, we all work closely together. So we're very aware of what's going on in the state. So just know that whatever number you call, that we all use the same database, so we know what's going on. And we have great conversations, and we like to do these outreaches together. So, just so that, we're keeping each other in the loop on what's going on in certain areas and there's certain scams happening in specific areas. We keep each other in the loop. So we're gonna, again, as Lauren was mentioning, we're mentioning identity theft and scams. And so I'm gonna talk a little bit about identity theft, things to recognize, to pay attention to, and make sure that you aren't a victim of identity theft, in preventative ways. And so just to go over it really quickly about how does identity theft happen. Typically, I think the majority of you guys know that sometimes people work for a company and employee information gets hacked. That's sometimes how it happens. But sometimes it could be simply as you are, throwing things, bills, whatever it is, in the garbage, and there's a nice little nosy person that comes in and goes through your garbage and pulls out some of that information. So one of the things I always say to people is invest in a shredder. So there are people who will go through your trash. So if you could do that, that'll be great, just to protect yourselves. And then sometimes they also have things like Shred Day in the city or town. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of Shred Day. So, to make it a point to find out from maybe your local city or town, and just make sure that everything is disposed properly. Sometimes what we've been hearing about with identity theft lately is people posing as if they're some type of authority figure. So they'll call you and just say, I'm from the, local police or local firefighter, and we need information, or we need money, or so forth. And then you start thinking, oh, it's an actual legitimate person, and you start disclosing some of your information. Sometimes it happens where somebody will call up and say to you, oh, I'm a debt collector, and I have, and then they read off the last 4 digits of social security number, and all of a sudden you're just like, wait, how did you get that? Now you just confirmed that, that you are that person that's associated with your social security number. We talk about things, how many of you use computers? Check your email, all of that. A lot of things happening now it's great that we have updated technology, but sometimes people will fish for information. And so they will send an email to you. Sometimes they'll pretend that they're your bank and they're saying, oh, something happened with your account, or somebody's taking money out of your account, please update your account information. And so what does the person do? They reply and they start giving account information, and now they've become a victim of identity theft. Texts, if you don't use a computer and you have your cell phone, you get a text message. That also is a part of phishing too. They might say to you, oh, click on this link, and now you clicking on that link puts a virus on your phone, and it allows whoever these people are, these hackers, to be able to pull your information, your contact information, your personal information, your text messages. So that also happens. Another way to really, find your information, get your information, is they try to divert your mail, your postal mail. So that's one of the things we always say to people, is just pay attention to the mail. Like if you know you get a significant amount of mail, even if it's junk mail, and all of a sudden you're barely getting anything, it's not those companies that don't want to send you junk mail. That means that somebody got a hold of your personal information and is using your information and diverting all their mail, your mail, to another location, because maybe they opened up some type of account or something under your name, and they're trying to get that check or a credit card or so like that. Let's see, clues that your identity has been stolen. We were talking about mail. You receive medical bills that don't belong to you. You know that you never went for a procedure, and all of a sudden now you have this medical bill. So pay attention to things like that. If this has been a big one, the IRS informs you. You go to, file your taxes, and the IRS basically says, well, you already filed. We already sent out the check, your refund. That's been a big one too. If your credit report, how many of you look at your credit reports? Yeah, it's really important to get in the habit of looking at your credit report. One of the stories I always like to tell people is, my parents came here in the 60s and 70s, and to this day, they never have a credit card to their name. So they're like, oh, I don't have a credit history. But they do. Everybody has a credit history. So even if you're using cash most of the time, and you don't have a credit card to your name, you still have a credit history. And so scammers, or people who try to steal your identity, prey on people who have really good credit. And so it's really important to look at your credit reports. And we have more information that will tell you to be able to just look at your credit history, see if there are any credit lines, anything that's open, that's unusual under your name. It's really important to get in the habit. So at least a few times a year, looking at your credit reports. It's really important.
Just to point out another thing with that, just a situation that I came across recently at the office is I had a gentleman come in and he said that he had just pulled his credit report. He was young, in his early 20s. He had just pulled his credit report because he was just trying to get things together, to thinking about buying a house, thinking about buying a car. So he wanted to see kind of where he was at with everything. And when he pulled it, he found out that someone had used his information to rent out an apartment and never pay rent. So he was due in court. But of course, because they didn't have his correct address or correct information, they just had a portion of it, he was never notified.
Mm-hmm.
So he didn't find out until years down the road that somebody had taken out loans and an apartment and all this stuff in his name. And now he has to, at 21 years old, has to go through the whole court process to get that fixed. So it's something that you really want to make sure that you're on top of checking your credit report, because it's the little things like that that you're not even thinking of, that the second that you find it, you want to act upon getting that fixed, because the longer it goes, of course, the more damage could be done.
And it's really important, some of the things, other stories that we hear are family members. Unfortunately, family members take over, can find your social security number, and take out lines, credit lines under your name. So also, it's really important to protect yourself and pay attention to those. We hear stories of parents using their 4-year-olds, information to pull out, to open up credit lines. Utility companies opening up electricity or gas under, somebody's name, and they have no clue that that's what's going on. So it's really, really important to just kind of be more aware, pay attention to all types of accounts that you have, whether it's as simple as your utility or your bank account or your credit line. It's really important to just, be in touch and be in tune with it. So one of the things that we always say is, in terms of protection, we've kind of touched on, and everyone knows this, is protect your social security number. So that social security card, put it in a nice, safe place. But I also say that with bank account information. Anything that's personal information, it's really important to tuck it away, not have it thrown on your desk. Again, because you just don't know. We hear so many stories of, the person next door, their kids are coming over, and they're bratty teenagers that end up taking people's information, and you've known them since they were born, but they've taken information. So it's really important to tuck away the social security number, your bank information. And try not, when you are doing business, make sure that the people that you're dealing with, or the business people, the transaction, and Lauren's going to touch upon this a little bit more, but if somebody's like, hey, I'm coming to, I can do some repairs around your house, or a landscaper or something like that, try not to, pay attention to what information you provide for them. Know that they're a legitimate business and so forth. So, even though they seem like really nice, respectful people, you're talking to them, you want to do your research, you want to do your homework, and make sure that they are a legitimate business and that they're not just taking your information and running with it. So that's really important. And as we said, watch your accounts, check your credit reports, shred documents, as we were saying, and then if, unfortunately, and it happens to a lot of people, if you do become a victim of identity theft, the minute you find out, it's really important to go to your local police and file a police report. So tell them that you are a victim of identity theft. The sooner the better, because let's just say you are a victim of identity theft and you wait a few months and somebody goes and opens a credit line, it's going to be really hard to argue with the financial institute to say that, no, I wasn't the one who pulled out, you know, a mortgage or pulled out a credit line to buy a car. So it's really important to go to your local police and file that police report. And as we were saying, protect your social security number, hold on to that police report too. It's really important to hold on to that police report because you'll have to share that information with your financial institutes, with you know, sometimes government agencies from the state level, federal level, just to be able to say to them, I was a victim of identity theft.
So, for example, going back to our previous example, if this this young man that came into the office had realized that he lost his social security card, and maybe that's how they got it. If the second that he lost it, he put in a police report with his local police department, he could then go back and use that police report to say, look, I did lose it. I lost my social security card, and this is probably how they got that information, and that would help him down the road when he's going through the whole court process. So don't think it's silly to go to the police department and write up a police report. It's something that they may not be able to directly assist you, but just let them know that you are concerned and you do want to put in a police report and have something on file, even if they can't help you directly with it. It's just a piece of legal documentation that may help you down the road.
And, you know, on looking at your bank information, pay attention to transactions also on your bank accounts, even small transactions. So even if it's something as small as 25 cents, that means and you don't remember using your debit card, your credit card, and you're like, wait, 25 cents, oh, but it's 25 cents, don't worry about it. Really take it seriously, because that could also be where somebody is testing you out to see if you pay attention to your accounts. And then what happens is they'll go smaller, they'll hit with like smaller transactions, and then ultimately they'll hit you with like a $2,000-3,000 plus charge onto your account. So it's really, really important to pay attention to the details of your bank. And then also, so after you file a police report, you want to contact the credit reporting agencies. There are 3 major credit reporting agencies. That's Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. There is a one-stop place that you could, if you do use the computer, it's annualcreditreport.com. There you can actually report identity theft, but there's also an 800 number that I believe is someplace in there. We'll let you guys know about that. But to put some type of a fraud alert right away, and all you have to do is really contact one of these credit reporting agencies and they'll report it to the others. But putting a fraud alert saying something unusual happened, they'll do it for about 90 days, right? Mm-hmm. 90 days they'll do a fraud alert, and they'll pay attention to anything that seems unusual. If you are not looking to open up a credit line, buy a car, get a new house, or anything like that, you could potentially put a credit freeze onto your credit line. And the idea here is that even you couldn't take out, so if let's just say you were going to a department store and they offered you a credit line at that department store, you yourself couldn't take out anything. So if you know you're not going to take out credit cards or buy something using your credit line, you could put a credit freeze, and that protects you. And in the future, you wanted to remove that, you could do that. But that, protects you. It's also good for people who, fall for the, the offers that they give out at stores. You could be like, nope, I have a credit freeze. I can't get a card. So, mm-hmm. So something to really think about. And then also just pay attention to things like, if a debt collector calls you and says, you have, you owe us for a credit card that you took out, and you're like, I never had that credit card. So sometimes we've been hearing a lot of debt collectors or supposed debt collectors, and saying that you owe money. Pay attention to that. If you get a debt collector calling you, they have to be registered with a certain state agency, and that's the Division of Banks. Massachusetts Division of Banks. So any debt collector, legitimate, whatever it is, needs to register with the Division of Banks. So it's really, so if somebody calls you, that's a good time to look at your credit reports, make sure that nothing unusual has happened on your credit line, and then also call the Massachusetts Division of Banks. Anything else?
I think that's good. So, does anyone have any questions about identity theft?
I had a question on credit cards. When you cancel a credit card, how long does it take them to remove it? Do they have like a 10-year period to leave it there?
There used to be one. There used to be like a certain time period, but what we say now, it basically goes to the discretion. You can dispute it, but they said before it used to be like 7 to 11 years. Now people can argue that it can be there for longer, and only a judge can really determine. Like if you wanted to dispute it and take it to court, you could dispute it. But what we also tell people is, if it's actually a good thing not to cancel your credit card. Like, don't have your credit card, but don't use it. But canceling your credit card will bring down your credit score. So, if you don't want to use it, just kind of keep it tucked away or whatever, but canceling it will bring down your credit score. And that also affects the way you do when you want to buy something or get another credit card or do a credit line. It will affect your interest rate. So if you have a better credit score, you get a better interest rate on your on future credit cards and so forth. So
If someone uses your credit card, don't ask me how, somebody did it.
mhm.
And they called me up and said, did you make these charges? I says, no, I haven't used that card in half a year.
Yeah.
Okay? Does that go against my credit report when they have to get that thrown out?
So is the company the one that's like, is the credit card company canceling that card, or is it you?
No,
Is
I
it-
canceled it right
Oh,
away.
I see.
Because I
Okay.
said I couldn't figure out how they even got it.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause I
Mm.
don't use it. And they
Because
said, well, they just return it.
usually what the companies will do now, because identity theft is so prevalent, is they will fix the charges that were there. That way you don't have to pay them, and then they will go ahead and change all the numbers that are on the card. That way you kind of get issued a new card. So whoever used your information in the first place wouldn't be able to use it again because it wouldn't be applicable.
So it would hurt my credit.
It wouldn't
No.
hurt your credit, no, if
No.
you were to do that.
I have a question too. Does Medicare use social security numbers for the attorneys?
They used to.
Yeah.
I don't know if they do anymore.
still do.
They still do?
They still do.
And
Yeah.
I think that's very bad. I mean, you're protecting your social security
Correct.
number like life and death.
Correct.
Mhm.
But there's no way around using your Medicare everywhere you go.
Mhm.
That use doctors and on and on. And I just think, I mean, the registry stopped doing that. They gave you the option
That's right.
quite a long time ago to change. I think Medicare should consider that.
Mhm.
They
Yeah, that's
probably
a
will move in
complaint.
that direction, I would
Mhm.
imagine, because of this issue. Because your spouse, sometimes you're using their social security number as well as your
Mhm.
Medicare number.
And it ends up a lot of
So
places.
it ends up a lot of places. yes.
And that's a complaint that we have heard quite frequently in
Yes.
our office. So I think Michael is right that it is a direction that they're moving in because of the issues that happen now and how many scammers are out there that are looking for that information. So I think that you're right in saying that it is a direction that they'll move in. Any other questions? No? Okay, so I will move on to scams. And I will start this off by saying that usually what we say about scams is if it sounds too good to be true, then it probably is. That's what our office loves to say about scams because we hear these calls every single day over and over again. And it's very unfortunate because usually once it gets to that point of us getting the call that it's too late, that the damage has been done and there's really no coming back from it. So that's why we come out and we do these outreaches because we really want to let everyone know about the scams that we're hearing about so you don't get too caught off guard and you can recognize it when it does happen because it happens all the time.
And to everybody.
And to everyone, yes. And unfortunately saying it's something that they prey on people that they know will be home. So if there's somebody who, they'll get information if they see that there's a single mom that they know is a stay-at-home mom, they know that she's going to be home during the day. Or if they see that there's an elder that will be home all day, they look and they try and find the most vulnerable populations that they know will be home to answer the phones or to answer the door, and that's who they go after.
And that's the unfortunate thing with technology is that now you could go onto, you used to have your simple white pages and yellow pages at home, but now everything's online. And you could go onto the website and find out the age range of people and a little bit of information about each person. So that's how a lot of scammers get that information.
Mhm. So the different problems that I'm sure are pretty obvious with scams is there are so many that it's very difficult to track them down and stop them. We have people that call our office every day that are so frustrated that they have this phone number of somebody who just called them, and why can't we just call them back and catch them and track them down? Unfortunately, it just doesn't work like that. These numbers that are calling you, those are not the numbers that are actually calling you. They're spoofing numbers. They're using this technology, which I don't even understand. Which you use a little jack where you can put in pretty much any number that you want. The latest and the newest one is that they put your own name and phone number that pops up into your caller ID. So it looks like John Smith is calling John Smith. So immediately someone sees that and they're confused and they say, hey, that's me, and they answer the phone, and they're already thrown off guard. And then when they start saying stuff like, we're going to come after you, you have a debt, we're going to bring you to court, that's when they get frazzled and they say, oh, what can I do? How can I make this stop? And of course they say, well, you can send us money, and that's how you can make it stop. And what we do is we take these complaints. Sometimes we can go after them, sometimes we cannot, because of the difficulties there are with tracking them down. We just don't have that technology or resources available. So what we do is we oftentimes work with federal agencies. So the biggest one that we work with is the Federal Trade Commission. And they've done a really great job of tracking these call centers down and shutting them down. But that raises another issue. Once one shuts down, another one reopens. And surprisingly, they look exactly like the one that we just closed. So it's something that it's so frequent, and it's such a part of life now, unfortunately, that it's really hard to get these scammers to stop. It's something that, what I like to say is, it's their job to do. They consider being a scam artist to be their job, and they are the best at their job, and they will do whatever they have to do to be good at their job. So that's the downfall of it. But the best thing that we can do as a state agency and as a public agency is to go out and educate as many people as we can. So whatever you take away from this, please tell your friends, tell your family, so it spreads a little bit further. So the different types of scams. As Amani had mentioned before, the biggest one I would say that we receive over somewhere between 20 and 50 calls a day about the IRS scam. What that is, if you're not familiar with it, which I'm sure most of you are, is they call and they say either you haven't filed taxes, there's back taxes, there's a problem with somebody using your information to file taxes, but basically the gist of it is that they're the IRS calling, you're in trouble, if you don't pay them right now, then they're going to come after you and arrest you. One, the IRS will never call you. And if there's ever a problem with your taxes, you will get something in the mail. So if you ever receive that call, just hang up, do not engage with them at all. I know a lot of people like to play games and kind of mess with them a little bit, but the best thing to do is just not engage, because they want to know that there's a live person on that other line, and if that person's willing to engage with them at all, even if it's a non-friendly engagement, they're going to call you back. So the best thing to do is just hang up the second that they say it's the IRS. Another one that we're seeing pretty often is, has anyone gotten the calls pretending to be Microsoft, or has anything popped up? You have. Okay, so this one has been going on for a while too. This is one that, say you're on the computer and a screen will pop up and it says there's a virus on your computer, you have to call Microsoft. That's one thing that happens, and they give you a number to call. You call that number and they say, oh yes, we see that there's a problem with your computer, you just have to pay us $299 and we can fix it all for you remotely. A lot of people will say, okay, I just want my computer fixed, I want to be able to use it, so they pay that money, they fix it, and then they go away. Another way that they do it is nothing pops up on your computer, and they just call you. They'll do a cold call and they'll say, hi, we're calling from Microsoft, we see that there's a problem with your computer, very similar process, and they get you to pay the money and fix it. That's not Microsoft calling either. So the best thing to do with that, and this one's a little bit more scary because sometimes they are able to gain access to your computer, and if you do any online banking or if you store any passwords or any personal information in there, they can potentially get that information and use it, and then you are a victim of identity theft and you have to follow everything that Amani just said. So that the best thing to do with that is if you get that call or if that pops up on your computer, unplug everything, just shut it all down. Don't just shut it down, but unplug it, and then contact a local computer repair shop that you trust and see if they can take a look at it and make sure that there's no viruses or anything on it.
So it's really important to disconnect your internet. So so when she was saying shut everything down, that includes your internet. Turn that off, because then let's just say you had wireless on your cell phone or so forth, they can also still access that information too. So turning off your internet and getting that taken care of right away.
Another one that is probably going to be popping up now that the weather is nice is what we call door-to-door or gypsy scams. What those are is when somebody is conveniently paving a driveway down the street from you and they have some extra materials left over and they see that you have a little crack or a hole in your driveway, what they'll do is they'll knock on the door and they say, oh, we were just doing your neighbor's driveway. We see that you have a little issue there. We have enough to fix it up right now. If you just want to pay us $100, we'll fix it right now and it'll be done with. A lot of people will fall for that. And what happens is, yeah, they may fix it, but 2 days from then, where it's just a hole again, and you realize that you don't have any contact information for them, you don't know their names, you don't know their phone number, you don't even know if they're a real business, you have no one to get in touch with, and now you just wasted $100 because the issue really isn't even fixed. They'll do that with driveways, they'll do that with roofs, they'll do that with chimneys, a lot of different things. Another thing that we've heard with chimneys is that people will show up and say, oh, we were sent over by your local building inspector and they said that there's an issue with the chimney and we have to do a cleaning to make sure that everything's okay. So they're in a sense representing a local government agency. So people will immediately say, oh, okay, like let me let you in. So one, you have someone that you don't know in your home. And then two, they may do all this work, convince you to do all this work, and we even have some that come back different days to finish doing the work. But what do they care? I mean, 2 days of work, they'll probably get a couple $100, and then they're gone, and they don't have to worry about it again because, you don't really have much information to go on, and the information that you go on might not be accurate. So the best thing to do if that does happen, because there are legitimate businesses that will come around and in good faith want to fix stuff for you, and we don't knock them for doing that, is look up their information. Ask for a card, ask for a name, ask for a license number, and then make the proper calls. Most of these professionals have to be licensed through the Department of Professional Licensure. If they're not licensed through them, the Department of Professional Licensure can tell you what profession they are, or who has to license that profession, and they can point in the right direction. But they can look that up. They can see, are they a legitimate business? Do they have their license through us? That way you can give you a little bit of peace of mind. But if you call and they don't even have their business on file, that's a good red flag. I mean, call them right then and there. see if it's something that's on file there with them.
And it's important to get receipts too. So, if you do want to go with this, this person that's going to come and fix your yard or fix your roof, ask them for, as Lauren was mentioning, contact information, so a card. If you end up making an agreement with them, we always say get an actual agreement written down, signatures. Their contact information needs to be on the document. That's really, really important. That's a little sidetrack, but it's really important to get that information so that if there are problems in the future, you can communicate with them.
And I'm going to go into two different ones right now that they do happen, and they happen frequently, but it really depends. You'll see when I tell you. So one is called the grandparent scam. Some of you may have heard it. It may have happened to some of you. What happens is you'll receive a call, and they'll say, this is so-and-so, we're from Mexico, we have your grandchild Mike who's here, he's gotten himself into some trouble, and we need some money in order to get him out. You might say, wait a second, my grandson is in Mexico on spring break right now. It must be him. Who else would know that? What we're finding is these scammers are using the internet against us. So your grandson Mike might have a Facebook, and he might be very excited that he's in spring break in Mexico at spring break, that he's posting pictures every 5 minutes. I'm on spring break, I'm in Mexico. Somebody's using that information to call you to confirm that you know he's in Mexico, and immediately it's going to click and you're going to freak out and you're going to send whatever it is that they're asking for. So that's one thing that we really are trying to stress to people is, even if you yourself don't use social media or are online, be aware that the information that's out there is being used against us. Another way that it's being used is similar to that situation is if Mike might own a house. Maybe he's a really good 20-year-old and he owns a house, but he goes to Mexico and he's saying, I'm on spring break in Mexico. Well, that means his house is empty for the next week. Somebody who's in the area might know that and might use that information in order to break into the house. So that's all information that you really want to be careful about what you're posting online, what your family's posting online, because it could be used against you. Another thing is passwords. I know that people say this all the time, is be complex with your passwords. Don't use the same passwords over and over again. Try not to use something that someone can guess, because we'll go back to the same situation. Mike's on Facebook, he's over grandmother's house, he's with grandmother's dog Fluffy, who's been in the family for 10 years, and he's taking a picture and posting it on Facebook. Oh, it's Fluffy. Now they know that your password might be Fluffy. So they're using that, and they may go in and use that information to gain access to your personal information. So tell your grandson Mike not to go on Facebook and share all the information. Another one that is pretty prevalent is getting fake checks in the mail. Has anyone gotten any fake checks in the mail, or won the lottery or sweepstakes or anything? Okay. So one thing that is good to point out is that international lotteries there's no such thing. There's no such thing as international lotteries. So if you ever get something like that in the mail, just throw it away, or contact the U.S. Postal Inspection Service. They're a federal agency that tracks the different scams and mail fraud that happens with the U.S. Postal Service. So they're a good one to contact if you ever have any issues with the mail service as a whole. But what a lot of people don't know or assume that it happens is, if you bring one of these fake checks that you receive in the mail to your bank, the bank is not allowed to tell you that it's a fake check. So they may look at this and they may say, oh, this looks a little sketchy. I'm not sure if this is true or not. They are not allowed to tell you whether it's fake or if it's real. So all they can do is put it in, deposit it. Say you get a check and it's $900. You give it to the teller. She puts it through. You have $900, and you go and you spend that. And then they call you up a few days later and they say, "Yep, we have a problem. That check wasn't real, and now you owe us that $900 that you just spent." And by law, you do owe that $900 that you just spent, even though it was a fake check. So that's one thing to keep in mind, is that these checks that are coming to you, if you didn't expect it to come, it probably wasn't supposed to come. So unless it's from an organization that you know and you trust and that you can verify why you're receiving this check, don't bring it to the bank and don't cash it. Okay? I know we're going over a lot of different scams. Do you guys have any questions yet about different ones, or have situations that have happened to you? Not yet? No? Which is the recruiters?
Cruise. You
Oh,
get-
cruise.
You get you're
Oh,
entitled to
yeah.
a free cruise.
Right.
So that's another big one. Free cruises, free cars, free vacations. That would be nice, wouldn't it? So, I mean, unfortunately, and I will go into kind of the downside of all this, is sometimes when we're talking about it, you say, okay, that's common sense. I would know that if it happened to me. If I answer the phone, it's pretty common sense. But until it happens, sometimes you don't realize it, especially the scarier ones where they're threatening legal action or they're saying there's problems with your family members. One thing to keep in mind is if they ever ask you to do a wire transfer or to use a green dot card, that should be a red flag that it is a scam. Green dot cards, they are used for legitimate business purposes, but they are also have become very, very prevalent in the use of them with scam artists because there's absolutely no way to track them. What these green dot cards basically are prepaid cards. So you would go to, I think they sell them at like local drugstores or Walmart. You can just pick them up, you put that money on there, and then when you get on the phone with whoever's asking for the money, you just read them the numbers off the back of the card. And then that way they're able to grab all that money off the card. And there's virtually no way to track them down. So after that money's gone, it's gone. So keep that in mind. Green dot card, red flag.
Yeah, wiring, if you end up accidentally putting in a fake check into your account, and if whoever it is sent it to you and suddenly calls you and says, we need like $200 for tax purposes, and you go to pull that out, again, that's dipping into your money. That's also a red flag there. Also keep in mind with like fake checks, if you do put it in, the bank can also take action against you. They can freeze your accounts too. So even if it's, you know, the $900 gets deducted from your personal money, in the case that Lauren was just mentioning, they'll still put a freeze on your bank because when you signed up to open an account with them, you've agreed to their terms and conditions. You know, all those terms and conditions that nobody likes to read. It's basically that you built this relationship with them, and so they'll freeze your account. They can also take a toll on your credit line too, and so it will knock down your credit score. It'll also report to your credit to the credit reporting agencies. It'll actually say this person was a participant of a scam. It won't say you were a victim of a scam. It'll say a participant of a scam, because their theory is you took the check and you went and you deposited it, and we trusted you. So that also affects you in the long run too.
So what happens if we're always told don't put your social security number in online, but reporting an issue with your credit with Experian or something, they're going to ask you for that information. So it's kind of, is that okay? Like, when is it, I guess, okay to add your social security number when being asked and when you shouldn't? Is there any indication to
The
that?
best thing to do is if you're being asked by a company for your social security number, make sure you know the company. Make sure it's somebody that you either know is a legitimate company, somebody that you've worked with before. You want to only give that to someone who you really trust. So you trust your doctors, and you trust, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of different people who ask for the social security number where you feel comfortable giving it. So that's what you want to be careful for. When we say never give out your social security number, what we're really focusing on is those people who call up and say, we have the last four, can you just confirm the first couple of your social security number? And unfortunately, it happens all the time. We have people who call our office and they immediately hang up the phone and they say, oh my God, what did I just do? And they call us, and then they have to go through that entire process of calling 20 different agencies to make sure that they're covered under their credit report, their social security number, their bank accounts, everything. So just be very cautious, and if you ever have a question of whether or not to give out your social security number to a company, you can call us and you can talk to us about it, tell us the concerns that you have, and we can walk you through the pros and cons of whether or not that's a situation where you really have to give it out, or if they can look it up by a different piece of personal information, whether it be a name, phone number, address, what have you.
And that's actually a good point. Utility companies, let's say you're setting up an account they'll automatically ask you for your social security number to set up, make sure that the utility is under your name. Utility companies now are asking for different types of identification, so you don't have to release your social security number to, I mean, electricity is important, gas is important, but you don't have to, they'll just ask you for something else. So for example, they might say, send us a photocopy of your license, and they'll have that as some form of a state identification, and they can use that. But to kind of also go back with websites too, we talk about secured websites. So if you trust people, like the certain agencies that we were mentioning, doctors and so forth, each of these agencies have secured websites. And when we talk about secured websites, they have things like a picture of a lock that's on their website. If for those who use the internet, when you're looking at a secured website, it says HTTP, it starts with a web address, but there's an S, and that S stands for secured. So paying attention to the web address and making sure it's a secured website, because there are scammers out there that will do a knockoff of, you know, a trusted agency or a trusted financial institute.
So you should, that's a good point. I mean, it happened to me. So I went out to Bank of America and immediately said, you have to update your information. And the one thing that threw me off was there was not enough room to enter in the amount of digits I needed to enter. And then I looked up and, yeah, it was, what do they call it, a dummy page. And it was designed to get all this information from.
And another one that we've seen too is happened before, and it's kind of been fixed by our office since then. Is when you went to renew your license, there was links that would bring you to not links, but when you search to renew your license, it may not bring you to the actual state page, the RMV, to bring that up. It would actually bring you to a page that looked just like it. And it had this small little disclaimer at the bottom that said this is not an actual state page, but it was something that it looked like a state page. It would go through that whole process with you to renew the license. But instead of renewing a license, it would either send you out a booklet or a little pamphlet, and it wouldn't renew your license, but you would pay the same amount to renew the license. So that's something that has since been fixed by our office. That website now has a very big logo at the top that says this is not a state agency website. So that's good.
Yeah.
So there's
we still get complaints.
We still get complaints, but
they're like, I wasn't paying attention, and there it is. Yeah.
So there's certain things that you just want to be cautious when you're doing anything with your personal information at all, anything. You want to be very cautious of what you're doing and very careful about who you're giving it to and who you're trusting with it. Has anyone come across scams yet that we haven't mentioned that they have questions on? No? Another one that's been in the news frequently is they're called skimmers. So if you use a debit card or a credit card, there's these skimmers. So they're little devices, and they can be put on a lot of different places where you would insert a credit card or a debit card. The biggest place that we've seen it and we've gotten complaints that it's been on are gas stations. So the best way to explain it is it's a small little black piece of plastic that just goes right over the top of where you would slide the credit card in. So when it's on there, you almost can't even tell that it's there. So once you slide that in, it's able to take all your information. What I do, and I know Monty also does it, probably because we work in the job that we do, is when we go to gas stations, we just wiggle it a little bit, make sure it's not popping off, and you know that it's okay. But that's happened a lot. It's probably, I don't know if you've seen it on the news at all, but it's happened quite frequently. There was a gas station a little closer to Worcester, where there was I believe it was a federal agency that was close by, that all the federal employees would go into that gas station and they would buy gas there. So a lot of their information from their credit cards was taken just by getting gas by those little skimmers. And it's something that once that happens, I mean, a lot of banks now, because it happens so much, banks are getting a lot better at looking at what happened and being able to resolve it. So it's something that the second that it happens, really contact your bank and talk through them about the steps that you can go to rectify the situation. How are you doing on time?
What do you do when you put your card in?
We just wiggle it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it goes right over it, and so it's, if you wiggle it and it pops out, guaranteed somebody, and that's the thing, sometimes it's just someone who's standing across the street and just waiting, and they put it in. Sometimes those ATM machines that you find in those like mini marts, people will say those also, because I guess the way the lip comes out, they're able to put the device on there properly and just get people's information. Sometimes we've heard stories of, not to scare any of you guys never going to a restaurant, but waiters or waitresses that have a side job of scamming people might take it and have the device in their palm of their hand and swipe. So there's plenty of stories like that. That's unfortunately.
That's why it's so important to check your accounts regularly. And even as Amani said, even if you see something, even if it's 10 cents that you don't recognize, call your bank, see if you can get more information on that, because what these scammers will do, I believe you had said it before, is they take out small amounts. So the 10 cents here, 15 cents there, 25 cents there, and it may be over a period of 6-7 months. And then another 6 or 7 months later, that's when they'll hit you. They'll hit you with wiping out the entire bank account. So you really want to, if you see that on your accounts, you really want to make sure that you take action right away. Don't ever think that you're being too cautious, because there's no such thing now with all the scammers that are out there of being too cautious.
And with that, just kind of, we talked about it earlier too, is that if you get bank statements in the mail, try to get a lock for your mailbox, secured mailbox. Sometimes people have it that the little slots that go right into the home, that's like perfect. But if you don't, you have a mailbox, try to get a locked mailbox to secure your information, your personal information. Another one, I was like thinking about free trials on commercials. When you're either late night or early morning, you get those commercials that say, "Oh, try this product for free." Those are ones that we get all the time. And so what happens is you're like, "Oh, for $19.95, I'm going to purchase these socks that basically make my foot comfortable." I don't know what it is, but that you end up getting it, and then all of a sudden, what happens is you end up getting not just a pair of socks, but you keep getting more and more shipments of these socks. And they have your credit card information, and they're going to keep charging you and charging you and charging you. So really think twice about, I fall for those like seen on TV commercials all the time. But now I started to notice that stores sell the seen on TV, so I'd rather go to the store and buy the product than.
Yeah, but you don't get two then.
Yeah, so it's really, just if you can avoid those free trials, because they're really not free. And they are just trying to get your information. And if you're really tempted, what we tell people is go and get yourself one of those prepaid cards, and use that card information to buy that product. So you only have $25 on it, then you can go and buy it, and if it ends up not being the best thing, they only have $25 on that. So they're not dipping into your debit card. They're not dipping into your credit card. And what we also tell people too is if you're going to purchase anything, it's best to use a credit card for the purposes, because credit card companies will dispute things for you. So they can dispute things for you, and it's a credit, and they can reverse a charge if they think that they're going in your favor. They can reverse a charge, and there's no loss to you. But if it's a debit card, think of a debit card as cash. You use a debit card, you've lost the money, and the bank unfortunately can't fight for you as a credit card company would. Yeah.
That happened to me.
We are.
We have a couple minutes left. Does anyone else have any questions about? Question?
Yeah, we was in Florida one time, and my wife needed a pair of socks. We went into a department store and we were looking at the socks, and there was a guy behind us, and paid no attention to him. He was well dressed and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So when we go about do everything and then get home and get back to where we're staying at night, and the credit card company called me up. Were you in New York today? They said, no, because I've been in Florida all day. But they said, you come from Mass, so with somebody in New York, they use your credit card for $4 and some odd cents for a quart of oil. And then the next one was $900.
Wow.
And then the next one was $1,500. And to come to find out, they'd taken a picture of my wallet.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a new device.
Yeah.
Well, it's not new, but
Credit card company told me, they said, don't worry about it. We have an idea who it is, and we're just about ready to jump on them. So.
that's great. Yeah, so that's a good point. So there's another device out there. It's, I believe it's also called some type of skimmer. But what will happen is, say Amani has a purse on right there. This person can be holding it. It looks just like pretty much like a cell phone. They could just bump into you in the store, and then they have all your information. They can take it off your credit card. They can also take it off your phone if your phone's right there.
Sometimes people have things in their back pocket.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like maybe you're bent down to grab something, and they've they've gotten your
And I
information.
fell into the computer one where your computer's acting up, and somebody's on there, they've keystroked in there, and
Yeah, like the Microsoft one.
yeah, and they're gonna fix your computer for you, and this happened. And then like it was almost a year later, I get these phone calls, right? And they're telling me that I paid them $275 to fix my computer. I says, I never paid you anything to fix my computer, and you didn't fix it, right? And so they kept, it was like a woman, and she's yelling and carrying on, So anyway, it went on and on and on, and finally, this guy came onto the phone, and he was really, really nasty, and he's saying, well, yes, and we just deposited too much. We've given you back the money, but we deposited too much into your account. So you need to go over to the Walmart and send us back $2,000-something because, oh my God, it went on and on and on. My husband, I gave him the phone, and well, he let that guy have it.
Yeah.
The phone was burning, the wires.
Yeah, I mean that's a red flag right there. We usually, the second someone starts getting vulgar with you, it's a good red flag that they're not a legitimate
It was
business.
nasty.
I mean, some debt collectors can be like that, but it's against the law for them to be like that. So if anyone talks to you like that on the phone that you don't know, give us a call.
And he's telling me to wire this all this money, 2,000 something to China, and he's giving me this big long address.
Yeah.
He was paying the $200.
Yeah.
Well, I'll leave you guys with, I'll just let you know how to contact our office and let us know if you ever come across anything. Doesn't have to be scams or identity theft. If there's any consumer issues or insurance issues or really anything. If you just have a question in general, if we don't have the answer, we will find out who has the answer. So just give us a call. That hotline sheet has, down the bottom, has the number of all our main offices. And then there's the numbers for the different divisions and the different hotlines that we have too. We do also have an elder hotline that we can spend a little bit more time with people on that hotline. So that's a good one to call if you have a more in-depth problem that you want to talk through a little bit more. We can spend a little bit more time on that hotline with you. So if you have any questions, just give us a call, and we'll, like I said, we'll let you know how to file a complaint with us if it's something that we can handle.
And what's in this book, the manual?
There's a lot of good stuff on here. Yeah, so this Consumer Action Handbook, that's actually put out by the Federal Trade Commission, I think. It's the federal government that put that out.
Federal Citizen
That
Information Center.
is a wonderful book. That has pretty much everything you can possibly think of in it. It breaks it down by topic, so whether it's a car issue, a health issue, an insurance issue, you can look it up in there, and that'll tell you all the different agencies that you can contact that may be able to assist with that issue.
And also in there, like, if you have any issues with like major businesses, their corporate information is in that book too. So department stores, you know, dealers, auto manufacturers, whatever it is, if you need to contact them, their information is in that consumer action handbook.
And if there's extras, they can take some for family members, friends?
Yep, I'm gonna leave everything that we
Yeah.
have here.
Oh, okay.
So anyone can take them.
Wonderful. Take one.
And if there's anything there that you want extras of that we may not have here, just give us a call and we'll mail them out to you. Okay? Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having us.
Outside the door.